how it's on you, and it just complements us. Like it's just.
I know we got the green and the yellow.
I know, innit? So crazy. I was actually rushing, I was rushing. I was thinking like, damn, you know what? And I was trying to iron this top. I was like, oh my gosh,
Really?
this top's not. It's not so bad actually. And I was like, listen, I can't be recording and like,
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't have a. I don't have an iron. But like honestly, no, I'm actually sad. I'm actually sad that I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Like I feel like what's funny when we came on the Friday. I was like, yes, like we were in Houston. I remember just being, I was like, nah, this is, like, it's that kind of feeling of when you first come to a new city, you're like, nah, this is it. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday went by. I told you, I haven't slept. I haven't slept.
Yeah.
I've slept, but I won't even call it sleep. I've been taking naps, like 2 hour nap, 1 hour naps.
Just little naps in between enjoyment.
Like tomorrow, I'm not like legit. I'm not sleeping.
Oh yeah, you're not, because you're gonna be traveling.
So
How long is your flight?
9 hours, 10 hours.
It's not as bad as I thought. I was
Yeah,
thinking
10
it was
hours.
gonna be more than 10 hours.
Yeah, and it's like, honestly, man, I'm just, yeah. This
And
trip
it's a straight flight?
yeah, straight flight.
Okay.
10
At
hours
least
is
you don't
quite,
have to walk around and stop.
no, but 10 hours is a long time to be on a flight,
Yeah.
And I think the longest I've been on a flight, it's probably been 11 hours.
Really?
Yeah, when Cancun.
Oh.
That was 11 hours. But funny enough, Cancun will probably be quicker for you though, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So how long would it be from?
For like 2 hours.
2 hours. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. For a straight flight.
But yeah, it's always no. My flight was direct. So I think it was 2 hours and 11 hours and there's nothing worse than being on the plane and not having extra leg room. I think it's listen.
I feel like they don't build planes for tall people.
Listen, extra leg room is that is needed. We had extra leg room when we were flying out, so it's like, but it wasn't extra leg room. We just managed to sit at the like, how you have like obviously the aisle seats, and then there's the seats where like just sit at the front. So
right.
there's no like seat. How do I describe it? There's no seat like in front of us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's no seat in front of us. So literally, it was just like, yeah, okay, we did that, and
those are always the best.
Yeah, because I feel like
for long flights.
Yeah, I feel like Torpy, they need to make planes for us.
Right.
I know that sounds cheeky, but they need to whenever they're designing what they call it, the Boeings, whatever they call it, they need to start making it so that with us at the forefront. Like seriously,
right, for tall people, for the people with the legs.
Yeah, because honestly, sitting on a plane and you're like this,
it's uncomfortable.
Like, yeah, I can't do it
unless you get first class. It's a scam.
But you know what's funny? Running off on the topic of flying, yeah. Do you know why I feel like with flying? Like, like, okay, I don't know about you, but before, like when I was younger, and how can I put it? I'm not trying to say I'm some millionaire now, but when you're younger, you just have to you kind of buy, like, just can't afford, like, how can I put it? When I was like younger being like maybe like early 20s, when you're just still like you're going to all these decent places, but you're not spending crazy money on flights. So like extra leg room was like a luxury, because you think, okay, cool, I already spent £200 odd on the flight. I'm not gonna go and spend an extra 50 for leg room, because like, no, it's just, you just don't factor that in. But what you see as you get older now, I'll be honest, I'll pay the extra money for the leg room, for whatever it needs to be. I'll pay it, because I don't know, man. I just can't be on a flight and I'm not comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what
it's
I mean?
hard.
But you don't. I don't think you don't have that problem, though, do you?
No, I do. I love it when there's like empty flights, and then I just find a space that's like that has like a lot of seats, and I'll just put up all the armrests and lay down.
I've never been on an empty flight where I can just sit like I'm sitting down, and the next two seats across of me are literally just like
empty.
Yeah, I've never had that.
Really?
No,
I've been on a couple. When I went to Dubai, Dubai was our straight flight. That was the longest flight I've ever been on, but it was like 14 hours
14 hours. See,
straight.
Dubai is like 6 for us. 6 hours for us.
So you're lucky.
But then you're lucky because you can fly to. Okay, I guess Miami is not too. How far is Miami from
Miami's not far at all. I mean,
Dallas?
I think that's like a 4-hour flight.
Okay, that's a bit. That's a bit.
Yeah.
I think, and if yeah, and that's not bad for
Is it
4 hours. But for us, it's probably be like probably 10 hours.
10 hours.
Yeah, 10 hours. Yeah, 10 hours or more definitely. Like that's yeah, that's long. But I feel like when you're based here, like for example, you can go to LA, all these other places. Whereas for us, it's gonna be long. That's why I was saying I don't want to put my travel plans out there. That's what I was saying when I want to do travel certain things, certain places, so that it's easier to travel. But listen, but aside from all that, listen, I'm gonna miss this city. I'm gonna miss this city. I feel like I'm Dallas's favorite Londoner, but people don't know it yet. I'm Dallas's favorite Londoner because I've come here, like I can do the accent. Listen. Tell them I'm about accent. Come on, listen. Listen.
Your accent's all right. It's
Wow.
funny. It's interesting.
I'm sorry, people watching and listening. All right, listen. Come
It's
on,
all right.
come on. We don't need to. Let's stop the cap. All right, all right. It's I don't
You want to give them your accent?
What's up? We live in this Amenze studio, Thinking Aloud podcast. It's your host Jermaine. I'm with an international guest in Houston, in Dallas.
Houston, chai.
Want to introduce yourself? This is where you introduce yourself.
Oh, that's where I introduce myself. Okay. What's up? I'm Amenze. My name is Amenze. I'm originally from Dallas. Not originally from Dallas. I'm originally from Boston, but I've lived in Dallas for about 15 years now. Yeah, I'm just here, man.
I think jokes aside, my accent, it still needs some work. I need to work on it clearly. I don't know what happened today. The other day, it was on point. Like I felt like I was really, really one of the American, but today it's not working. So what can I say? But thank you for joining me on the first ever episode recorded overseas, and that's a big thing for the podcast. People listening and watching. Of course, we're a London podcast. Like me and Ben, we do the podcast from London, so it's nice being here, being able to talk with you, especially about grief, because like what I mentioned to you before, like it's just not one of those topics that it's easy to talk about, or have those difficult conversations. And like I said, I can always say here, this is a safe space. Whether we're in London, whether we're overseas, it's always going to be a safe space to have these conversations and just share like how your own personal grief has impacted you, how it's affected you, and just ultimately changed. Well, if it has changed the way like changed the way you see life and things like that. So thank you, man, for coming on. I appreciate it. Like I said it's not easy like talking about these things, but I also kind of felt there's a lot of similarities as well, because obviously I lost my dad too, and had to deal with the process of like going back home, Nigeria, dealing with just not only the funeral, but it's other stuff that comes with it. So like family members you've met for the first time, you haven't seen, and there's just a whole lot of I don't know, man, like politics that comes with like. I feel like having a funeral in Nigeria is so very much different to might be different to having a funeral in London, and I'm sure maybe it might be different having a funeral in the US. I feel like I don't know. There's a lot of like different customs and
Tradition.
yeah, and that was a bit of it's a bit hard to adjust to that, but but I think that was quite a difficult time, and like I said to you earlier, we don't have to go into that, 'cause I think some things about grief is though like it's something this podcast is to be able to share, but like I said to you earlier, I always feel like it's important to the important thing is how it's made you feel, how you're dealing with it, not so much how what happened, how that that death came about. Because those things are quite like I always believe that some things should be, if obviously if you want to share, but some things should be kept for yourself. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
doesn't, even though you're talking about grief, it doesn't mean you have to share every single aspect of that grief. Or it's similar to me as well. I don't. There's a lot of things that I don't, even though I talk about my parents a lot, but there's still a whole lot of things within the loss that I don't talk about because it's just I don't have to. I feel like it's just, yeah, it's just like something's just kept for you. Like, I mean, like, but just kind of talk me through like your loss, like when your dad passed, and just what that was like processing that um the loss.
Yeah. So for me, my dad, for the past few years, probably as long as I've been born, or been alive, my dad has always been dealing with a lot of health issues, um, whether it be high blood pressure or just dealing with his weight. He's just always dealt with a lot of health issues. And so, I mean, it's like we've been having to deal with that for a long time.
Mm.
So that's just been a lot. But then when COVID came, kind of made things different, and it made us look at him to be like, we became more cautious, and we wanted to be like, you really need to watch out for yourself because it doesn't seem like COVID is easy to go through, especially with someone that was in my dad's condition. So when he actually got sick and actually got COVID, it was a little bit scary for us. I mean, before it happened, my dad always seemed like he was able to overcome a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
but it was still kind of scary because we're like, what is this going to do to his body and how is this going to affect him?
Mm.
And when it did actually take him, I think it was just unbelievable for us because before my dad's passing, I've had people that passed in my life, but it was different when it was my dad.
Yeah, it's
'Cause-
like it's close to
Yeah,
home.
yeah. Like I've had my grandmother pass, and I knew her, but it didn't feel the same. I mean, grown up with my dad, only knowing like that's the first man I've known,
Mm.
and so when he passed, that just yeah, I feel like my grieving process started with denial because I just couldn't. I was in disbelief that someone that close could pass away, and it just seemed like death death happens, but it just didn't seem like it applied to me.
Mm.
Like I should have saw that, and when it did happen, I was confused on how to feel. So it was really denial in the beginning and confusion, and then I don't know. I really experienced like the stages
Yeah.
that people talk
Yeah.
about: denial, bargaining, like why, anger, especially with people that responded to me in a strange way. Dealt with a lot of that, depression, a lot. Um, it was rough. And so, yeah, just learning about that and processing through that was just different for me. And I always just tell people I felt like I was outside of my body watching myself just go through that. And
Mm.
I don't know if a lot of people feel that, but that's how I can describe how I felt. And every day I felt like I was here, but not really here. Like my body was just on auto, but I wasn't really a part of my body.
Yeah, like they call it is it like an out of body experience? So you just, so did you feel like, I don't know, like maybe like not numb? Yeah, a bit of
Very
numbness,
numb.
like,
Yeah.
or like, how to describe it, like numbness, but just a feeling of, oh, I don't like this feeling of grief, although it's very like not mental, but it's very emotional. But at that point, did you feel like this is like getting quite affecting me physically?
Yeah. Definitely. I definitely felt numb. I think that's the perfect word. Being numb. I didn't want to I didn't have any interest in participating in a lot of stuff in life. People that were excited about stuff, I had no interest in that. I just felt like just fading away
Yeah.
and just not existing because that's how I felt. Like I just felt like not. I just didn't want to participate, and that was like for the first year, which was last year. But that was like for the first year for me. Just I didn't have any interest in participating in anything, and it was hard. I didn't know how to interact anymore. Like I didn't feel like being a part of this world anymore.
Mm. No, I think I can definitely relate to you with a lot of you said because I think that first year, like, is it was the hardest, like, because it's you. This is like, and like we said before, I've experienced people who've passed away, but it hasn't been like as this is as close as it gets.
Yeah.
So, even though I feel like I've gone through grief before, but I haven't gone through grief before because at that stage with other people, because there's no like personally, I feel like there's no relation between me and the other people who've passed away. So I won't say there's no relation, but there was no relationship.
It was
There was a
not
relation,
deep.
but not a relationship. So it didn't really affect me. So
Yeah.
like, although I could say yeah, I've experienced loss before, but but I don't say I have because that loss, those loss prior to my parents didn't bring about any emotions the way my parents, my parents brought about emotions. So I feel like it's the first time experiencing grief, so, and I feel like the first time of anything is always well. I can't. I don't say. I'm not sure if you're gonna apply it to grief, but I just felt like, in particular, it just felt like this is crazy. Like one minute I'm, like I'm cool, like I'm, like not cool, but I'm sad, like crying as you know, as expected. It's a hard thing to do, and then other minutes I'm like, I feel like I'm fine again, but then I'm not again, and then I'm thinking like,
Yeah.
okay, but why did this happen? Like other people have their families and they're not even appreciating like just different stuff, and I'm just like it's a bit of like you said before, anger, like okay, like just yeah, I just didn't want to, like it's like I'm amongst people but I'm not there.
Yeah.
It's like I'm physically I might be there but I'm here up here, I'm not there, I'm
Yeah.
just you don't want to be around, yeah, I kind of relate a lot. You don't want to be around people like, but so your dad passed away last year.
Yeah. Last year, January.
Last year January. So it's you've been a year and a couple of months now.
Yeah.
Um, but through I would say so that first year, as you mentioned that it was had a range of different emotions, like and I don't want to say like has it uh well I can't say has it changed you, but do you how have you how has it how has that loss changed not you but let's say the things around you, so like for example how has it affected your like family dynamics, like in your relationship with even with friends as well as family, like has it has it impacted that, or do you feel like that hasn't really changed?
Yeah. So I feel like it definitely did impact that. I'm definitely more so like before my dad passed, like I knew death was happening and a lot of people that I knew were experiencing it, but I didn't take it I never looked at it like the way other people did because I never personally experienced it like the way I did with my dad. So going forward, when I did meet people that were experiencing loss, I was able to I was more sensitive. It made me slow down and think like I was just more sensitive to it because I'm just like you were saying, like you have those moments when you're grieving where you're just really excited or you're really, really down or you're really, really mad. You have all these mixed emotions. I didn't know that you could feel all that until it happened. So when I did meet other people that were going through it, I was able to sympathize with them. And I don't know, it just, I feel like it, I don't know how to explain it. It just made me more sensitive and more, it allowed me to give people that opportunity to be vulnerable about around me and to feel comfortable to share that and for me to just sympathize with them. Because before I felt like, I mean, I don't know how I came off to people when people experience death. I don't know if I came off very insensitive. I probably did, and I didn't even realize it. But it's just like I was more aware. I became more aware, and so I don't know. It gave me a softer heart to
Yeah,
that, and I feel like I was able to look at people differently that go through death.
yeah.
So. Yeah. It just made me slow down and really think and be considerate of other people that are going through this rather than just before I feel like I was more selfish because I not even selfish. I just feel like I was more ignorant because I
Mm,
just didn't know what it felt like to lose someone in that way.
yeah, that's interesting you mentioned that because I feel like generally we are very like nonchalant to things that don't really affect us. So it's not to say that from like it may seem quite that when someone's nonchalant, it may seem like they don't care, but it's just they being nonchalant that you have no emotions because you're not affected by that particular thing. So like what you
Yeah.
mentioned with grief, like before my parents passed, I would help people pass away, but it does nothing for me because I have not. That's not to say that I don't care, but I just don't have no emotion towards that because I've not been through that. But
Right.
then when you've gone through it yourself, of course, you realize firsthand, okay, this is what it's like. So like you mentioned, it makes you have a bit more empathy for others who've been through it as well. So like like I always feel like going through grief has made me more like I don't know, yeah, like, similar to you as well. I won't say I had like this hard exterior, but I'm a bit more like okay, you know what, like they've just been through this, so I can imagine it's not easy. So it's like you tread with a bit more caution. You're a bit more like okay, maybe how can I help this person, even if it's something little, a message or do you need any, you're just a bit more like yeah, you care a bit more now,
Yeah.
and just because you didn't really care before, it doesn't make you a bad person. It's just that you just not you you weren't used to that. You know what I mean? You haven't experienced that. So and even with us, you've experienced grief, but there's other things as well that we haven't experienced that we're probably a lot nonchalant to because we don't. It has no relation to us. And
Right.
whether it's good or bad, if we do experience it, then maybe our attitude might change. Might be a bit more. Whether it may be a bit more. You know. What's the word? Yeah, more empathetic. But I feel like one thing I always try to say to myself, I know it's hard. Like I don't want to only like have empathy when it's happened
Yeah.
or when it's directly affected me. Like I know like in life there'll probably be some things where like I don't know what it's like. One case being point is like knowing what it's like for I can say to myself, I can walk down any street at night. Well not like that, but I'm saying I can walk down any street at night and not really bat an eyelid because, even okay, for example, even being here, a lot of the time, yeah, I've got family here, we move with family, but for the most part, there's times when we go for places by ourselves and I'm not even thinking about, oh, damn, am I gonna be safe? Like, are there gonna be people who like? Whereas for a woman, it might not be the same thing. You might not. You might have to think about maybe 3 steps ahead. Whereas I'm not even taking any thinking steps ahead because I feel like as a guy, maybe that's just my. I don't want to say privilege, but as a guy, maybe I don't worry too much about that because it's like, oh, I don't know how to explain it. It's like I'm
Like
not
that's
saying I
not
don't
your
have
same
to worry.
experience.
Yeah, but whereas a woman might have to worry a lot more about walking towards a dark alley than a man has to because what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying everyone who walks down an alley, um, like worries, but for the most part, what I'm trying to say it's different. It's different. So like,
Yeah, I
my
get
my
what you
my,
mean.
my point is that like I don't want to just because I'm a man, I don't want to feel like oh because I can't relate to certain issues when we're not going through. I don't want to feel okay. I can't relate to it, so I don't want to bother. But I still want to have some sort of empathy. But I know that I can only have empathy to a certain extent because I'm not experiencing it firsthand. You know what I'm
Right.
trying to say? So I think that's one thing I want to try to learn and just like rather than you know being nonchalant. Okay, just try to put myself in other people's shoes.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
I feel like this process has definitely allowed me to put myself in other people's shoes. And yeah, just like you said, it definitely made me more empathetic and more aware of just
mm,
those who are going through it. And just it made me more patient. And it made me understand that everybody grieves differently, especially when I see my family members. Everybody grieves so differently. And it's just, you just got to let it happen. The way
yeah,
someone grieves, you can't change someone. You can't force someone to quickly get over the way they grieve. You can't you can't expect them to be a certain way. You just have to allow them. I remember one of my cousins, he calls me so often. One of my cousins, Adam, and he'll tell me all the time. He'll ask me, "How does your heart feel?" Or "Are you treating yourself okay today?" And he's like, "You don't have to rush yourself." Like if he catches me like crying at some random moment, because he allows me to have that space. Um, and he's like, you don't have to rush yourself. Everybody's grieving process is different. And he's like, you don't have to feel pressured or unsafe,
Mm.
but everybody's is different. And you're allowed to feel the way you feel.
Yeah.
And so it's like, even if it takes years, but he's like, just also remember, like, at the same time, it's not your identity. But you're allowed to grieve.
Mm.
So I kind of had to remind, whenever I see someone grieving, I remind myself, like, everybody's process is different. Kind
Yeah.
of the way
Definitely. How do you how was it like? Do you feel like you and your sister have grieved differently in terms of dealing with the loss of your dad, or do you feel like you've more or less had grieved in the same way?
I feel like we have. Each of us, the way we handle our emotions in general is very different.
Yeah.
So, but then there'll be certain moments where one may have been going through a certain emotion a certain way, and then maybe a few months later, the other one, like me, I'll go through it the same way she just went through it, another way, and then we'll talk about it, which is great. I'm so thankful I have my sisters because we get to talk about, like, man, have you ever felt like this before? And we get to comfort each other. So yeah, we'll have those moments where it's just like I felt like that like a few months ago.
Yeah.
And it's okay to talk about it. But yeah, I feel like we go through. I think it's just based off the way I'm a very emotional person. I'm a crier, so
Mm-hmm.
I cry often. So the way I grieve or I've been grieving is definitely different from like probably the way my middle sister Gueda has probably been grieving. Or yeah, it's just I feel like we go through it differently. My mom is completely different,
Yeah.
especially being a Nigerian woman, seeing how she grieves. Like, yeah, it's different, but then there'll be moments where we're just like, I went through that at one moment where I was that extreme or
Mm.
I was this chill. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But do you ever feel like I don't know. I sometimes feel like maybe it's a like Nigerian thing, like being the elder sibling, and like so naturally, your parents would say look after your sisters, or look after your young sibling. But in terms of your group, do you ever feel like have you ever felt that you've had that like a I guess maybe like an unwritten responsibility to like make sure your sisters are okay dealing with the loss, or
definitely. I felt like, and that was when I did go through well, I'm still going through my grieving process, but while going through it, I feel like that's what also added on to my anger because I'm experienced as the first child who first met my dad out of my sisters and everything.
yeah,
I felt like I had these strong emotions and everybody's asking me, look after your mom, look after your sisters. And I'm just like, what about me? How come no one's ever talking about me? I'm really going through it. But I have to be, it's like, just like you said, that unwritten rule where it's just like, I have to be super strong. And there's moments where I'm just like, I don't want to be strong. I want to,
yeah,
I want to cry and
yeah,
scream. But it's just like, at moments, I felt like that wasn't allowed of me, especially in the Nigerian culture. It's just like, I remember a lot of when my dad first passed, a lot of relatives come to me like, your mom has been through the most. That was her husband. She's known him the longest, which is true. She's known him more than us. But at the same time, it's just like I feel like I'm still allowed to cry, and I feel like a lot of people were trying to stop me from that in the beginning, and that was hard because naturally I started doing that. I started telling myself like, okay, be strong for your family, be strong for your sisters, your mom, and when I did that, I exploded at some point. I remember when I was talking to my therapist, I was just like my emotions was coming out in pieces just because I was holding in so much and
mm.
trying to be so strong. And yeah,
But
it wasn't good for me.
but and the reason I asked that because I feel like for me anyway, I feel like that didn't help my mental health.
Yeah.
So which one I want to kind of segue into that of mental health. I feel like so not only as a result of that, did you feel that impacts your mental health, and other than that, do you feel were there other things that you know um impacted you mentally throughout the your grieving process?
Like other things like around me.
So like Yes, I guess overall, just let me rephrase. I guess overall, just like how was your mental health impacted? Um, in terms of like dealing with the grief, dealing with your loss.
It was definitely impact. It was a heavy impact. I had already been dealing with depression to a degree, so yeah, that definitely impacted my depression. And so seeing my therapist at that time was definitely necessary, of course. And I feel like anybody going through this process should definitely be encouraged to seek therapy because you can't walk through this process alone. Um, but yeah, it's definitely made me, I mean, adding on with the numbness, that's just added more to my depression
Yeah,
of just not wanting to be here and not wanting to exist. So yeah, it definitely impacted it.
yeah. Like I think it's good that you've had um you've had therapy. You're open about talking about it because I feel like, especially amongst, I don't want to say amongst Nigerians. I'm sure it's amongst other cultures as well. But like, no, being from that culture, sometimes certain things, like, and I guess it's not meant in any malicious way. But sometimes, some people might say, "I don't worry, you be fine. Just be fine. Just pray or do." I mean that kind of stuff. And it's not, again, there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it's more than that. It's more than that to kind of help you. Yeah, yeah. Prayer. You know what I mean? If you as a Christian, yeah, of course, prayer. That's vital. But I know also that prayer alone is not going to get me through this. I need to seek help. I need to talk about these things and have a safe space to talk about these things. And the reason, and I wanted to reason why I mentioned is because, like, you mentioned, like, I feel like hearing you say, you didn't want to be here. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
But already, I'm not thinking that you're thinking about, again, trigger warning. You're thinking about suicide.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's just that feeling of I don't want to be here. But whereas, but you saying that to maybe, I don't know, like your mum, for example, that might raise alarm bells because, like, what? Because I guess maybe I won't say they don't understand like those things, but I guess, like, because I don't know, when you say that, you're just gonna think of one extreme. Oh, I don't want to be here anymore.
Right.
If you said someone, I don't know. Oh, what does it mean? And rightly so, because it's not. You would think, oh, they mean, okay, you don't want to be here. We
Yeah.
know what that means, but sometimes, and but that's why with grief, you have to. I feel like it's important to have conversations around these things, but also, like, have them unfiltered, because, like, there is no, like, rosy or like like fancy way of, like, talking about grief. You just talk about as it is, as you're experiencing it, and
Mhm.
sometimes that might come with uncomfortable conversations, but it's important to, like, to always express how you're feeling, how things affect you, and I think that's one that, which leads me to my kind of like the sort of like the kind of final question I want to ask you, like, what, like, for me personally, I felt like that was one challenge with my grief. Like, I wasn't. It's like I wasn't be honest about my grief. So it's like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm
Yeah.
cool, but I'm not cool though. I'm not fine, but I'm just saying it because I feel like that's what I should do, because I don't know. I can't really go in depth about these sort of conversations, or this whole grief. Who's gonna understand it?
Right.
A lot of people around me haven't been through it. So, like, with you, what were some of the challenges um, that you faced because of grief?
I feel like basically like with what you said, a lot of people I feel like a lot of people started looking at me differently or moving differently just because some people that haven't really been through that same experience, they didn't know how to respond to me. So I feel like naturally people just started distancing themselves. And that was a challenge for me because I'm just like a moment where I'm like going through something so huge. I feel like I want a lot of people here with me.
Yeah,
And everybody's just like, in their heads, not knowing how to respond to, death. They're just everybody's distancing
yeah,
themselves. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to be. They don't know how to be my friend. But all I really just wanted was just people to just you don't have to say much, just be there
yeah. No,
and and hear me out. But I don't think a lot of people don't have that capacity to hear you out if they haven't really been through it. And I learned that too, also adding to what I've learned, but learning that people, if someone hasn't been there, they're not really going to understand you. And
Yeah.
that's okay. So when I found people that have been through the same thing, I feel like I could breathe. But yeah, that was a challenge just seeing how my friends couldn't respond appropriately or the way that I wanted to. But over time, I had to understand like people are not going to understand you.
Okay.
And
So at that point, you understood that. Were you less? Do you take less of? Do you take it less personal because you now like looking back? Maybe at the time you thought, well, okay, why is it that so and so that I probably expect to be in my corner is a bit distant. But then when you kind of again you look at it back and look at it now in hindsight, actually maybe it wasn't a case they were being distant from me. It might have just been a case of they didn't know how to approach that, you
yeah,
know. So knowing that did that make you take it like less personal
yeah,
and have a bit
definitely.
more understanding?
Yeah, definitely. I remember in the beginning, I just when people were distancing themselves, I didn't understand it. I was just deleting people off Instagram,
Yeah, like yeah,
blocking
you're not gonna talk
people.
to me. That's it. Everyone, you're
I was
you're
mad
you're,
at
you're
everybody.
gone.
Was my enemy. Everybody. I was just like, you know what? You're not my friend anymore. But and I used to talk about it with my sister. My sister used to be like, yeah, these people are not for you. How could they just not talk to you? What kind of friends? We literally had the same energy. But after a
Yeah,
while,
fuck them friends, enough for me. Yeah, like,
right. And I'm just like, but after a while, and especially I think it just took me talking to certain people. They're like, to be honest, I really didn't know how to respond to you. Or even my close friends
mm,
that still did talk to me, but they're like, I really don't know what to say because I've never experienced someone that close to me dying. And I'm like, wow, like it really took that for me to be like, okay, people really don't know
mm,
how to talk to you. And maybe it's for the best because there are some people that can probably talk to you to say some reckless things and you'll be more offended.
yeah,
But yeah, people don't really know how to approach you when something like that happens. But I mean, what I really feel like is just if people are around people that and they're close to someone that has experienced death, like it, it's not you just saying something, it's just you being there. I feel like that's what mattered. That's what mattered to me. I just wanted people to just be there, even if you didn't say anything. Even if
yeah,
someone's on the phone with me for an hour and just not say anything, but just letting me just cry and just go through it, that mattered to me.
yeah. That's the thing though. Sometimes it's not even like having someone being there and it being this. Oh, you have to give me a pep talk every 2 minutes, every 10 minutes. You got to ask for them. Okay, literally just be. That's it. Just being there. That can do so much than thinking that you need to do 20 different things to be supportive. But being
Right.
supportive can just be being there. You know what you need. Okay, cool. I'm gonna stay with you today. Like we can just do whatever. We can take our mind off things, or what I mean.
Exactly.
Because I remember even me going through grief. I wouldn't say like I'm some grief expert, but something I find it hard to. Okay, how can I support someone?
Yeah.
But I'm like what, just okay, just be there. Or I always say, what does that person need? Or maybe today not in the mood to probably go about and I don't know. For example, let's just say do their weekly shopping. Maybe I might be like, listen, I'll do that because right now you're not in the state. There's all these little things, or
Yeah.
trying to get them through like practical things. Like these are ways you can support. So yeah, I'm with you with that. It's not always about the support. I would like listen. You just being there, I will remember that. Then you trying to be
Exactly.
like, oh, don't worry. You don't have to say anything because sometimes I understand that people don't always know what to say, but I feel like it's you don't have to feel like you need to say so many different things so just to show that you're supporting it can be in so many different ways and other people's support might be that might be having those words of encouragement or and other people like ourselves might just be just them just being there
Yeah.
so it's different and it's different for different people and I guess the challenge is trying to know how to support a friend going through it because it's a bit weird to ask them how can I support I don't know like Yeah, I guess you could ask, how can I support? Yeah, you could ask.
Those are great
Yeah,
questions
yeah.
too.
How can I support? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you could ask that. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's many different ways support can be shown, man. And this because this journey is not easy. You need people
Yeah.
along the journey. So and I feel like that's amazing. And like even just like me and you guys it's been dope. All your sisters you're all doing great things in the midst of still dealing with grief. Because again, it's not easy, but it's good that you guys have each other. Yourselves, you and your mom. You know, Justin and Cole. So like, yeah, it's amazing, man. Like I said, and I think that's what it's been. As much as I've like I said, I've been. I feel like this trip has been non-stop. I've hardly any sleep this trip, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's been amazing just connecting with so many different people, meeting the likes of you, and because yeah, it's again it's a nice feeling because and like I said with grief, like it's not nice and you're losing someone, but essentially one thing I'm grateful for is the people that I've gained as a result of that. Like being here and seeing my aunt and me and the rest of the family. Like it's been bittersweet, man. And of course, I ideally want to be here knowing that my parents are alive, but it's just the reality that you know that I'm dealing with, and I'm sure it's the same with you
Yeah.
um as well. But listen, thank you so much for coming on, man. I've actually appreciated you agreeing to this because I said before is that it's not easy. It's not easy. So like how are you gonna come on holiday and ask someone? So yeah, do you want to do a podcast? By the way, have you been through grief? Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's not
It's a
you.
lot. You did put me on the spot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but honestly, I thank you, and I hope I hope the conversation hasn't been too. I know it's a lot. It's hard. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate it, and I know 100% that people watching and listening appreciate it as well. Like yeah, like I said, It's good talking to people, especially people from various parts of the world. Um, so yeah, thank you people for listening. Please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and I don't know if you have anything you want to plug, anything people should know about in terms of maybe what you're doing. I don't know your maybe travel tips.
I
Anything.
mean, I don't really have anything to plug. I'm just here and I'm happy to be able to participate. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, man. It's been dope, and that's us. We're out thinking out loud overseas, Dallas to be precise. MZ Studios, Spider. Thank you, and that's us. I have to cut it.